That was the song that I remember. Are we starting? Is this happening?
I mean, we could just do it.
Okay,
Let's
let's
just
go.
fucking
You know what?
let's
I'll
do
shut up.
it.
I'll shut up. Let's start
No,
over.
you had a thought, but dude, do you understand how special it is to have you back on the
Dude, look at
show,
this move I'm
bro?
doing right now. This is how I come into. This is how I come into your podcast.
Oh, it's so sad that the audience doesn't get to see this until
Ah!
Thursday
Oh my
if
gosh.
on YouTube, but Tuesday if they pay for the Patreon.
Hey, you know what? Pay for the Patreon because you know what? It's Josh had to move back to Maryland, and I know
I
that
know.
hurt.
No, do not start that fucking rumor. I'm back February 25th, bro. I already
Yeah.
got a ticket.
No,
Dude,
no.
I'm first
Hey,
of all, and I'm in New York right now, so I'm more of a
you know what?
world traveler.
It's exciting to have Josh, Maryland to Fresno, and I'm excited that you're back in Fresno where you live now full time.
Hey, man, I got a good meth thing going there, and I want to keep it that way.
Oh my god! I used to have a joke about like, wait, are we starting? What's going on?
Yeah, tell the joke now because the audience wants to hear it.
Oh no, I used to say that like I was writing a bit about how there's heaven and a hell, and you're always thinking about heaven or hell, and then you don't know if there's a heaven or hell, but like what would heaven be like, right? But there, if you've been to Fresno, there's a hell. You're like, okay, Bakersfield. Why do
Yeah.
those places exist? And you know what's a trip is
What?
I don't like karma and all of that. I believe in it because if you live in Stockton, and no offense to people from Stockton, they're like, I love Stockton, or I love Fresno, or I love Bakersfield. I think you did something bad in your past life. You wanted to come back as a squirrel, but now you're like, dude, I'm from Milpitas, and like, yeah, those places exist. Like, that's
I
something
don't even
bad
know where
happened.
Lopetus is, but just the name Lopetus to say that's where you live just sounds like something out of fucking Amityville horror show. Oh,
I,
you mean the house in Lampetus?
I love that you're calling it Lampetus and it's Milpitas.
Well, I can give a fuck. And probably the Fleece Army doesn't give a shit. You know what they do give a shit though about Joe?
What do they give a shit about?
Modern lovers.
Road
So
Runner.
and that's what's funny about doing this, man, is I look at that list and I go, I know that, I've heard
Yeah.
of that, Ooh, I'm excited about that, and then I see this record and I'm like, I have no fucking clue about anything about the band, about the record. This is pre-research. Luckily now I'm caught up to speed, but
Yeah.
it's like, dude, I had no idea. So for me, this is my first rodeo with Modern Lovers, but you being, I'm going to give you this title, the Duke of Punk, not the King, the Duke.
The Duke, I love
You
it.
own some land in the punk world, and you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, this record for me, like anyone that's familiar with it, they say this is the first punk rock record. This is, a lot of people say that. I know that there's going to be probably a lot of people that agree, people that don't agree, but that was something that got thrown out. I remember when I first heard it and someone said, hey, this is pre Ramones. And you're like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. It's like being a Catholic and someone says, dude, this is before God. This is before Jesus. Like this is pre. You're like, no, there's no dude like that. And then they bust this record out, and for me, when you asked me about it,
Yeah.
I thought you were messing around because it was a record that definitely was something that as a kid growing up, you kind of had to spend some time with, because they had that song, Pablo, if Pablo Picasso was an asshole, that song that was on
Yep.
that was
We're
on
talking about it.
yeah, that song was on a compilation, I remember. And you're kind of like, what is this? It was arty, it was different. At that point I was, when I first heard this record, I was like into into Black Flag, Circle Jerks,
How old?
Adolescence.
How old?
I would, for me, when I heard this record, I had already, by the time I heard this record, it was later on in my life. Like I was definitely in college when someone turned me on to it. Like, hey, dude, have you ever listened to Modern Lovers? And because Jonathan Richman was touring at that point, so people would go see Jonathan Richman. And I wasn't, no diss on where he was at that point in his career, because he went on to have a different career than what you'd think would come out of Modern Lovers. And that was a big thing for him. Like he did not that he didn't acknowledge the record, but I think he was just a different artist. They made this record. It kind of, while they're making it, funding stops, and the label, as that happens, starts to pull the plug. So it was kind of one of these things where, is it going to happen? And then, as the listeners know or don't know, this record, I mean, the people in this band, drummer goes on to start the Cars, Jerry Harrison goes on to start the Talking Heads, you know.
Who
So
was
it's
on our
like,
podcast last week.
ah,
So this is what's cool is that this
wow.
is like, yeah, dude, this is a
Was he
double
cool?
dip,
Was he
dude.
cool?
Can I tell you how fucking nervous
Oh.
anytime we have rock stars on this show, if I don't, because you know we book because they're fans of the record, but for me, I'm like, man, I know the Talking Heads, I know the hits, but I do not know the history. If I didn't have my friend Morty just to kind of steer me, it would be like, fuck, man, I'm like, I didn't want to come off sounding like an idiot, and he really was cool. I mean, like for real, I remember JT, like we both were like. At the end of it, we were like, because we always call each other and we're like, dude, that was fun. And it was just like, we just had to look at each other like, oh, he's not lame. Thank God. Like he's not too full of himself. And I knew that we had Modern Lovers the next week. So I was able to get, you know, and this is for all the people, all the Fleece Army that hasn't listened to the not the Modern Lovers, the Talking Heads episode yet. Go back and listen to it because I asked some questions about this record, about the band, excuse me, and he just filled us in. And I think like it really, for me, helped me when I dug into this, put that even into a more concise presentation where it's not like I'm just like, oh, this is a Jonathan Richman record. No, this is an important record.
Yeah.
It was
way
big.
More.
Joe, I was going to say, like, the funny thing I thought about Jerry, I mean, it was great. It was kind of like the same thing when we had Mike Watt come on right after we did Double Nickels on the Dime. That was like the back-to-back effect, you know? It was just so good.
I love how Mike Watt, only guy I've ever met, can talk about himself in third person, and it's totally normal.
And it works.
You know, I'll tell you right now, Joe. The Watt's gonna come down to Pedro. It's Econo style. That's what I'm talking about.
Man, but those were the lames. He would just be like, yeah, but there was the lames and the coolies,
man.
and the coolies and the lames, and that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, D Boone. D Boone was my guy. And I'll tell you, man, I look over at D Boone. I knew it was we Econo style, Joe. You know, sometimes some people come up to the Watt and they say, "What's up?" And I say, "You know, we got back to Pedro, dude."
That's spot on, bro. And also, can we stop this for a second and everybody just applaud for the first time Jeremiah, my producer's ever's voice has been. Hello. We're not cutting that out. You're a part of the show now because I don't want to be the only person doing this.
Can I tell you, obviously we're going to dive into Modern Lovers, but I got to tell you a Mike Watt story.
Please.
So, you know, as a kid growing up, Minutemen, such a legendary band. Loved them so much. And as I got, you know, coming to LA and starting my own band with these three dudes from Chicago. And, you know, we had our band Wax, and the common ground that we had at that point, you know, was, and this is like early 90s. So the common ground that we had were, you know, bands like Soul Asylum, bands like The Replacements. And then like what I brought to the table was like, I love The Clash. I love, you know, LA hardcore. And then they would be turning me on to different things. But one of the bands that we both loved at that point, all four of us, was Firehose. And Firehose was one of these bands that, you know, when you go to see them play, it was about the songs, obviously, but it was also about the performance. And you're getting to see Mike Watt and these, for three dudes, they would just move so much air. And at one point we got to go on tour. Wax did opening for Firehose, and we would, you know, they were the headliners, obviously. And right away when we meet them, just Mike Watt and the rest of the band are just so open. And hey, what's up? You know, there's talking, and you know, we just, you know, we're meeting each other. And as the tour continues, we used to do a version of Rudy Can't Fail from The Clash into Sham 69's If the Kids Are United. And it was kind of like this medley. And I'll never forget, one day Mike's like, hey man, the Watt wants to get up and play that with you guys. And we're just like, what? And our bass player, of course, is like, dude, yes. But our bass player thought, oh, I'll bail and I'll give you, you know, my bass. And Mike's like, no, we're gonna have two basses. Yes. I'll come up and play with you. And we used to do that. And it was just, I'd be singing two songs that I love. And then I'm looking over and you're seeing Mike Watt, and like, you know, he's digging into it with just these, he had a hand that was just so, everything about him is strong. That, like, he's one of those kind of guys that he's not going to deliver one note and phone it in. He's going to deliver it like it's the last time he's ever going to play. And I remember we would do that song together. And then it was funny because as the band, that tour ended, that was always the way we ended our show. Like that was like our last song. Like how do you not, you have Mike Watt on stage, you're not going to go, okay, cool, so Mike's going to take off when we got a couple more for you, you know? It's
yes.
like
one of the greatest bases ever, guys, and now it's back to just these shitty us, you know what I mean?
So he would bail, but I remember we were at a radio festival in San Francisco, and it was a big deal for us because at that point, you know, our song was happening on radio, and we were getting, you know, back then, you know, radio meant a lot.
Yeah.
We were getting flown to all these radio shows. And at that point, it was, you know, it was pre-Warped Tour and like huge concerts and things like that, like where alternative music is being played in front of a large group of people, you know. And I remember we're in San Francisco, and it was the same place where I saw Metallica play at Mountain View, Shoreline Amphitheater. And I was just like, I couldn't believe that we were going to play in the same place I saw Metallica, you know, before I moved to LA on the Injustice for All tour. And we're on this, you know, it was like Elastica was on it and Bush was on it. Was like all these 90s massive bands. And that day we come out on stage and we're playing, and Firehose was on it, but like we hadn't seen each other. And it was just like Mike, nothing had changed. As we went into that cover to end our set, he just comes out and he didn't even talk to us that day. Just knew Wax on tour. The Watt's got to play with Wax. You know, he just comes out and we play that song. Crowd goes crazy, and then he just walks off with his bass, and it was like, later, Mike. And so you know, that guy,
legend,
such a legend.
And
then the fact that, I mean, gosh, you've had so many amazing people.
And you twice, so I don't know what's going on with our booking. Obviously, we've had a hiccup this week because
when you told me you had Jerry Harrison last week, and then you said, "Yeah, I want to have you," or you know, to talk about the Talking Heads. You know, God, Jerry Harrison. I mean, like that's the thing that's so crazy about Modern Lovers. Like, you know, it never turns out the way you think it's going to turn out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. They're making this record, you know, and they're you know, Jonathan Richman and Jerry, and it's like they're coming up with the sound and everything. And you know, when you start a band, you think it's like when you get married, you're not like that's starting a band. Like you get married, you put the ring on. Okay, guys, I'm in the band. You know, when you get married, okay, I love you. You're not getting married going, ooh, there's something better around the corner. You know, like someday I'll be in the Talking Heads, you know, like you don't think that. You think this is our band for the rest of our lives. So to see the people in this band go on to the careers that they had, and then Jonathan Richman, the career he had or has, it's just strange, and it
very strange
to come out of this record, though. Do you know what I'm
saying?
Well,
you know, you said something up front that I've talked with about a few. You know, I've talked this. Let me take this again. I've like Jesus, I can't talk. I've talked about this with multiple people, and they've said to me that this could be considered one of the first punk records ever, because you know, it's almost like at the time you have like the Stooges in the late 60s, and you have, you know, the Velvet Underground, and you have Jonathan that is kind of like obsessed with those two bands. And I mean, speaking of which, it's like they have one of the guys from Velvet Underground producing this record. And after hearing about those two bands being mentioned of what's popular and what's kind of going down, that's kind of what this record is. It sounds like if the Stooges and Velvet Underground made an album together and or had a baby.
And for me, it's the lyrical content, man. I mean, what's one of my favorite lyrics, and you'll probably be able to pull this up, and I don't want to get it wrong, but on the song She's Cracked, where, you know, he talks about she's out and she stays out late, and he goes, I stay at home, eat health food. Like, I mean, dude, like, when did anyone sing about at that point staying home and eating health food? Like, I remember that song She Cracked too. Like, for anyone, if you're on the fence about checking this record out, I'm telling you right now, obviously Roadrunner, epic song, but the fucking jam is She's Cracked. And so many bands, we did a great cover of that song, but She's Cracked, just when it starts out, just the beginning, you're like, oh shit, we're in for a ride. And then it just keeps building. And then the way Jonathan sings, dude, that was the thing that brought me in. And I don't know if for me, I mean, obviously Velvet Underground and all that, but for me, listening to it, you know, over the weekend before we did this again, it reminded me of like bands like do you remember Pavement out of Stockton? Like,
I have friends that were obsessed with Pavement, him and like Stan Prekop. It's kind of in that, like, it's great. It's another band that I got to dig into though.
Another band, another kind of has that Beck delivery, like that early Beck. Like Jonathan's singing is, for me, along with the music and everything, but the way he sings to me, it's like, he sings all, it's like, it's not English, but it's like, you know, he's like, hey, Helfer, oh yeah, it's like he's like singing up in, I can't like in your top of your head instead of down low, you know, even on like, you know, straight. It's like, I don't know. That was to me the selling point when I first heard this record. It was
So
like,
so you hear this a long time ago. I mean,
I hear it after though. For me though, you got to remember,
for sure.
I heard it.
I didn't think you heard it
after
in
punk
70.
rock.
Yeah, I didn't think
So
you heard this
when
it came out. But I mean, and like, so what does that do to you? You hear this the first time and you hear that guy's voice and you hear what almost, I think we keep talking about punk. I got in an argument today saying that I feel like this is the origins of like emo. You know, very emotional. Like
totally.
He's very sincere in his lyrics. He's pouring his heart out. He's talking about how he wants to like take a girl out and you know, and run away with her, but you know, because he loves her. It's like, that's not punk.
Yeah. Or like even like on Astral Plane, you know, the way he sings on that. That's another great jam. I mean, just the rate. I mean, let's just start out with this. So you know, for me, at the point I heard this, I'm so into hardcore and punk rock. Like when I say hardcore, I mean like Minor Threat, Misfits, 7 Seconds. Like that's what I'm like being raised on, you know. And then I come to LA and I start hearing bands like Soul Asylum and the Replacements, and I'm like, okay, and Elvis Costello, and wow, what's this? So my music horizon is broadening, you know. And then as I get in this band Wax, these guys from Chicago, they just had a really big amount of music that they had listened to growing up in the Midwest that I didn't know about. Like I turned them on to like skate rock, The Faction, Los Olvidados, and they were the ones turning me on to Replacements. They were the ones that were turning me on to Goo Goo Dolls. They were the ones that were turning me on to The Fluid. Like I was like, whoa, what is going on? Like, this is different. They were, I remember our bass player, you know, he was like, dude, Soundgarden, check this out. I was like, okay, you know, like, so we had that going on, but our bass player is the one that turned me on, and I'll never forget it. We're like we go to each other's apartments in Hollywood. I lived on Fuller and Sunset, and they lived on the other side of Rock. You remember Rock and Roll Ralph's?
Of course, remember it. That's my fucking
there,
supermarket, right? Bro.
Yeah,
they had a deal on turkey meat.
Oh
3 pounds of turkey meat for $6.
Yeah, for the Fleece Army. So basically, you got Sunset Boulevard, and right there, there's a Ralph's there, and it was on Sunset and Fuller. And back in the day, you know, everyone from Guns N' Roses to, you know, every band that was on the strip right there would go in there to get beers, and it just got coined the phrase like, dude, meet me at Rock and Roll Ralph's. Okay.
Yeah, but which I like to believe that everything on Sunset Boulevard in that area is rock and roll blank. It's like, yo, man, meet me at the Rock and Roll DSW shoes, bro. Yeah. Rock and Roll Juice Bar. I'll see you there, dude.
Rock and Roll AM PM, bro. Rock and Roll Costco. Yeah, there you go.
Yo, do you want to go to the adult contemporary yoga studio? Okay,
yeah, dude.
That doesn't work as much. That's a different part of town.
Rock and Roll yoga. But so the thing that's a trip was like, we would just, you know, you go as, you know, we're young kids, and we'd spend, you know, the evening, work during the day, spend the evening writing songs together. And I remember I go up to our bass player's house or apartment. There's like 6 dudes living there.
Call it a house. I call my place a house. I'm gonna go home.
We go back to his apartment. And I remember, you know, he was always so cool. Like, you know, he'd be playing music and he'd light a joint up and be like, dude, I want to turn you on to something. I'm like, all right. And he plays Modern Lovers. And I remember oddly enough, he played the song I'm Straight. And he's like, dude, you ever heard Jonathan Richman, Modern Lovers? And I go, no, man. I mean, I've heard about it. I've never listened to records. He's like, dude, check this out. And he puts on I'm Straight. And we just listened to it. And I was like, like I said, the vocal of Jonathan Richman totally brought me in. And then of course, you know, we went to Roadrunner and then into, you know, She's Cracked and, you know, all the songs. And then at that point I was in, and it was weird because I thought at that time when he's playing it to me, I didn't know it was some old record, you know, cause I'd never gone down that road. So imagine that feeling of discovering something. Like imagine right now, like what's a record that you lived and died by, Josh? A record that just any record right now that you just go, dude, Stranded on the Island, I'd have to have it with you. What's a record you lived?
I mean, this is the one that all the fans are going to make fun of me about. Stone Temple Pilots Core, bro.
Okay. So imagine right now I can erase your mind and you've never heard it and you get to rediscover it. So for me, getting into this record and getting into the songs that were on this record, I thought it was something new. Like I asked him, like, dude, like, are we gonna play with these guys? He's like, no, dude, this is like this
broke it up
record's
for 20
old,
years, bro.
Yeah,
Ancient history.
and even sonically, it didn't sound like that. Like, you know, this is in the '90s when I get turned on to it. So that's, you know, that says a lot about the production and just how it kind of held up, man. Because some of those records don't hold up, but this record, I feel, and like,
it's
you know,
this is not, in my opinion, recorded in 71, 72, and 73 when it was recorded. This is, you know, this could be when punk's at full steam. This could have been when the Strokes came out. It's just, it's like you mentioned, Beck, and these are all artists that I feel are like heavily influenced by Jonathan Richman. Now, my only knowledge of this dude was, oh, that's the guy from There's Something About Mary. That's the dude in the tree singing. And I would have never thought that this is the music that he started with, which, from everything I've read, by the time this finally got released, he was already so past making rock music that he wanted to do that, basically take the lyrics that he's already singing and place it with a melody that matches the tone of what he's saying. But it's so cool that it's so cool that this is, in a sense, like by the time the audience got to listen to it, it had already been almost, 5-6 years since it had been recorded. And like you said, it's like Jerry said, man, he goes like, I didn't have any time to really, miss the Modern Lovers, because having that demo come out when it did is what got him in Talking Heads.
Yeah.
So it's, listen, I definitely fucking dig this record. I think it has moments where I'm like, do I like this? I don't know how I feel. And then with each listen, it just started kind of clicking a little bit more and more. I think there's a bunch of songs on here that stick out. I think Roadrunner is fucking phenomenal. Here, play the intro to Roadrunner, because this is because we had MIA on the podcast maybe 3 months ago, and she basically takes the lyrics from this song and puts it on one of hers. And so I was like, oh, well, I want to hear this song so I can, so I can see where she got it from. And immediately when I heard it, just the opening, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to save this and I will listen to it again. And it's
just the way it gets counted in, which is
so an odd counting, because he is on the 6.
Yeah.
He's on the 6. That's the thing.
4, 5. Dude,
play the intro. All right, so dude, I see you smiling. Like, you cannot not fucking bounce to it.
How? Because you know what it is? Even that line, I'm in love with Massachusetts. Like the way he said it like that. How do you say it like that? Like, dude, it's like, I'm in. Like, it's like Joey Ramone, but clearer. Like Tim Armstrong with, like, from Rancid, but clearer. I mean, it's just so fucking great. I mean, yeah, I remember my son, dude, we used to, every day I would take him to school, and, and we'd get in the back seat, and I would go, all right, we're in the Prius, and I would just fucking jam this tune. And it, he's a little kid.
Prius.
Yeah, and we're just jamming.
How much different music is being played in that fucking Prius that doesn't match the fucking the gas intake of that vehicle?
You're a dad when you're in the Prius and you think you're cool with the windows down, like singing AC/DC, and it's still not cool. Like, you're just a dude in his, in the midlife, just singing Bon Scott at full. Like, the Prius, like, sometimes, my son and I, we would, I would drive him to school. But the thing about that song Roadrunner was a while ago, because my son's now 16. He, we share our Spotify. So, like, he made a playlist, and we were, jamming around one day. He's playing all this music that, like, as a dad, you're like, you have to pretend you're in there. Like, oh yeah, dude, cool. A lot of, wow, stabbing, cutting people. Okay, cool. All right. Oh yeah, dude, I support. This is great. Every song, you're just going, like, it feels like pencils in my eyes. And then all of a sudden, this jam came on. I'm like, dude. He's like, yeah, I grew up to this song. I got to play it. I'm like, fuck yeah. I was so stoked. Like,
do your kids, do they kind of taken your like the push that you're giving them towards music?
No, I would say this. My daughter is super. She's like, she makes, she gets hired. She got hired by Levi's right before COVID and had like a billboard in Times Square where she was in the photo shoot for that. She designs the clothes for photo shoots. So she's just this making her own clothes and doing all this stuff with photography. She does all these videos on her Instagram, and it's always people getting stabbed. It's very like, you know, oh, we invited people and what are you doing? You're cutting your neck. Okay, cool. Like that's her whole vibe, you know, like, and her mom does the makeup because she worked on, you know, their mom was a makeup artist, you know. So that's super cool. And my daughter's full manager style, like has hired her mom to work for her, and it gets gnarly. Like, mom, I need this done now. Like, well, hey, you know, like, okay, my son.
Mom, I'm sorry, but these charts aren't going to work.
Yeah, dude,
this is so
gnarly.
last fall. We're in the spring collection, please.
Yeah, they were in New York together working on a project, and I think my daughter tried to fire her. Like, hey, if you, because her mother was like late for one of the shoots, and she's like, Mom, I can't, you know what? When I bring you to New York, either you're here on time or you need to go home. I need to know, do you want this? Like she said, do you want this? To like her mother, do you want this? Because there's other people that'll take this gig from you right now.
Yeah, dude.
My son,
this coffee is fucking warm. Ah, I was in her face. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mrs. Sib.
Yeah. My son, on the other hand, though, he's turned into this, like, he's always in his room. Just every time I talk to him, he calls it the lab, and he's just in there making beats, dude. He's just always making beats, and he you know, his friends will be like, yo, Nate, can you make a beat for me? And, you know, and we're on the same like server. So a lot of times these songs just appear on my desktop and I listen to them. Oh, wow. You know, what song is this? He's always working on beats. He's an amazing singer. He's been playing piano since he couldn't even stand. He writes amazing lyrics. In my opinion, like he's still at that part as an artist where he hasn't accepted like, hey dude, your voice and who you are is the center of the whole thing. And I know that makes you feel uncomfortable and you're going to kind of back away from it. But when he finally just goes, fuck it. All right. I'm that guy. I think that's going to be he can sing and just, he plays such great music. And it might be because, you know, his mom and I played everything from Bowie. They grew up with Bowie to Jonathan Richman to DC to, you know, Johnny Cash to Jerry Vale, Dean Martin, you know, to Elton John, a lot of Elton John in our house. We just, you know, and then also my kids grew up with the Clash. They're like, they know that, like, the proudest moment you know what my proudest moments is? My kids know the difference between the Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly. They know the difference.
Nope, I know that accordion. Nope, that's Dropkick. That's a Dropkick song.
Yeah.
This pirate tune is definitely not Dropkick. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way with my dad. My dad steered me with jazz, you know, rock, not so much, but movies and jazz. It's like, if you present it to him like, yo, this is the shit at an early enough age, then we'll learn, because we start getting into that like teenage years where we're like, like, that's not cool. You know what I mean? Like my niece is like 13. And I said to her, I was like, dude, next year when I come back here, you're not going to think I'm the cool uncle anymore. And she's like, no, of course I will. I'm like, 14, man, that's where it fucking turns.
Yeah.
So,
you know, really quick on this record, I want to ask you a question though. You know, when you're discovering the 500, you know, these 500 records that you're going through, you know, Josh, like with this record, you know, cause you got to meet Jerry, you know, when you did the interview with him, was it kind of hard for you to like not ask questions about Modern Lovers? Obviously I haven't listened to the interview yet,
what we did was, you know, I got all the talking head shit out that I wanted to get out, but I knew that I had to ask something. And then he started bringing it up, and I said, listen, man, I haven't done the research on the record yet. And I haven't really been able to fully like really dig in listen wise. Like I'd listened to it a couple times, but I hadn't done my breakdown. And I was like, just, you know, and he would say something and I would just go, oh, well, tell me about that. And I would just, cause I knew this week it would be appreciated for the audience, you know, like I said, the same way we did with the Double Nickel on the Dime. I was like, we have to. It's like you have the guy, and it just so happens that it's a week apart.
Yeah.
And you can tell though, even talking to Jerry, it's like, dude, this was a special band for him, because if he doesn't drop out of Harvard and join Modern Lovers, then he doesn't get in Talking Heads.
God,
it's almost like
nightmare. Your kid gets into Harvard, and then you have to hear you're like, whoa, what are we doing right now? Wait, you're in Harvard, and we're bailing that.
You think you're gonna make it? The singer's not even forming real words.
The band's gonna break up before it comes out, honey. I'm telling you right now, you cannot lose this. Yeah, and then you go on to do the Talking Heads. I mean, what kind of career? That's crazy. Yeah.
Well,
and his production career is insane.
Insane.
So insane. Deep into that with live and everything.
Yeah.
That's honestly what I got the most kick out of, was that he produced fucking live Throwing Copper. Right. I was like, it's easier than.
If you look at the whole discography of what he's produced, it's nuts.
It really is.
I sidebar really quick, since we're talking about Jerry Harrison. So when years ago, there was a tour called the Escape from New York tour, and it was the Ramones, Blondie, and the Talking Heads, and they were doing a summer tour. Can't remember what year it was. And at that point, CJ Ramone is now in the Ramones, and a huge Ramones fan. I went to anytime they came to Northern California, I was there. I became really good friends with Arturo Vega, who was the lighting director. He was the one who designed the logo for the Ramones. And then just by being a kid, I was always on the sideline when they came through San Jose. And, I got to know Johnny. And of course I became friends with CJ, who was my age, and he would replace Dee Dee, and Joey was super cool. And at that point, Marky's playing drums. And when they did this Escape from New York tour, there was a woman, and her name was Jill, and she had a great zine called Jilted. And I was out of Milwaukee, and I met her at this show where we were both the same age. And at this point, we're kids, we're both in our 20s. And she's hanging out, and CJ goes, "Hey, man, this is Jill. Joe, you should meet her." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I meet her, and I'm like, "So what are you doing on the tour?" And she's like, "I'm Jerry Harrison's nanny." So like they had their kids out there on the tour, and Jill just got to go on the tour taking care of the kids, and so they could be so the family could be on the road together.
Yeah. And
I was just like I remember just going like to me, that was like, what a rock and roll dream. So let me get this straight. You're out on the road. It was two things. Okay. You're like, this band is so rad that they bring their kids on the road. My family never took me anywhere. We went to Lake Shasta once. I never, if my parents were in the Talking Heads, they're like, "Yeah, you can watch it someday later. You're not coming." The fact they brought their kids. I remember they had a tour bus, and it was epic.
So that's what I'm saying is, do your kids appreciate how fucking cool you are?
No.
I
don't know. I mean, that's not something you ask them. "Hey, man, do you think I'm rad?"
No, rad? Do I rule, or am I fucking? Do I a stoke extinguisher?
A stoke extinguisher. We have to let does the Fleece Army know about?
Tell them, dude. Please tell them what the stoke extinguisher is.
I want your version of it, because I got to say, you took the lead after I did it once. You called me on the phone, or we went snowboarding together, and you said, "Joe, you have to turn stoke extinguisher into a bit reoccurring on your Instagram." And then
that's merch, bro. No, it's merch. It's merch because there was a picture of you. I think there was a picture of you either on stage rocking or you in a concert, and it's everybody's just, it's a hardcore show, I assume, and everybody's like, "Yeah, fucking
all into it,
fucking
everybody,
yeah," in the picture. But there's one guy in the front row who's just found out that his cat died,
arms
and he's
folded,
just bummed out. And you circled it, and you were like, "There's always one, a stoke extinguisher." And then I saw a picture of a jam or something else, and I fucking saw the stoke extinguisher, and I'm like, "You're right." Every one of those rocket photos, every concert you go to, everybody's having a fucking great time, and they're living in the moment, and they're fucking there. And there's that one person that just is dead inside and doesn't give anything, and it's almost like with stand-up, dude. We're having a great time ripping, and we see the one person that doesn't like us.
Yeah, I have a lot of those people at my shows. Just a whole room full of them. Yeah, it's a fire truck showed up of these people. Just "You're not funny, bail." Okay, cool. I'm almost done. I had someone come up to me once in a show in Portland. Someone was saying this to me the other night. They're like, "What's the worst thing that, or strangest thing someone has said to you?" And I had these two women come up to me in Portland. and they said, you know, when you came on stage, we didn't want to like you. And I was like, I'm such a people pleaser. I'm like, cool, man. I totally get it. I'm not a big fan either. Like, you know, you just like,
I'm not a big fan of my own shit.
Yeah. You know, you go to bed that night and you're like, I'm laying in the hotel. And I'm like, did someone say that to me? Like, why didn't I just, you know, that's funny. No, but my kids, I would say this, now that my kids are older and they're into music, you know, like the other day, my daughter just, you know, sent me it was cool. You know, like she sent me a text and she said, Dad, I love this video. And it was, you know, there goes my hero, Foo Fighters, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, my roommate and the second guitar player in 22 Jacks was, you know, Chris from the Foo Fighters. And I don't think he's in that video, but she's like, you know, isn't one of your friends in the band? So it's like, you know, there's stuff like that where like, you know, like hearing them discover that music. You know, my son, on the other hand, like he's the master of like, hey, Dad, like, dude, isn't your friend like, you know, I was hanging out with this kid and like his dad's like your bro or something. And I'm like, well, what band? I don't know, like G and Q, G. I'm like, G and R? Yeah, like Guns and Shoots. No, dude, Guns and Real. Yeah, his name's like, his name's called Slip. And I'm all, Slip? No, it's Slash. He's like, yeah, so like, I know that kid, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know Slash's kid? I go, I'm not friends with Slash, but you know, I know Duff. He's like, yeah, okay. Just not understanding. Like, my son hasn't had a shirt on, you guys, in like 4 years. Like, he's just never, just walks just around ripped. The house. Dude, he is so cut, Josh. No working out. He eats Taco Bell and just plays video games and makes beats. And he just walks around the house, just touching himself. Hey, Dad.
Hey, what's up, girl? My dad owns a record label. Yeah. Sure.
No, I'm saying in our house, just walking around, just hey, what's up? I'm like, can we put a shirt on? Like, it's just, yeah. He's ripped. Great musician. And like, yeah, for me to get as ripped as him, I would have to like never eat again. Like,
you have to go on a hunger strike.
Yeah. But yeah, so there
all right, so a little bit about Roadrunner before we move on to the next song. Beautiful tribute to driving Route 128 through the suburbs of Boston. I've been told it is essentially a rewrite of Velvet Underground's 68 song Sister Ray, which John Cale produced most of this record from the Velvet Underground. This has been covered, but not just by Joan Jett, Wirefish. It's been covered by Wax. Right? Or was it?
No, we never covered.
Jack? No, I thought you said you did cover this.
No, we never covered Roadrunner. We never covered any.
Oh, you covered? No. You covered fucking the other song you talked about.
Yeah, we when I was in the song we did with Mike Watt was we did a Clash, Rudy Can't Fail into Sham 69's If the Kids Are United.
Okay, Peter, cut that out so I don't sound stupid. And Jonathan, in fact, re-recorded this himself. He did this several times. There was a single called Roadrunner Once with this version on the B-side called Roadrunner Twice.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Peter, decide if that's worth keeping in there. I just feel like we have to do it or I'll get yelled at by my writer. All right. Astral Plane. You brought this up earlier.
Great song.
Here, play a little bit from it, Peter or Jeremiah. All right, kill it for time. I don't know if you get the same vibe, but this has a Doors vibe to me.
Totally.
This is fucking Moonlight Drive.
Because those little keys, Jerry in the back right there. That's so yeah totally.
All right, yeah. So now we've already seen. Now they're like punk. They're going through and doing some sort of like, I don't know what you consider the Doors, like I don't want to call it classic rock, but almost like circus-y.
Dude, so funny you say that. There's a bro of mine. I remember we'd be hanging out. You know, you have the one bro that just says it how he feels it. And we're all, you know, dude, it's the Doors, bro. And he's like, I don't fucking back it, dude. Fucking no bass player, fucking keyboard. Sounds like the fucking circus. And just you're like, whoa, dude, what are you talking about? You know, it does have I will say this though. There is that, I think, when you listen to the Doors, I don't know, it's the time and era, but it does have, I don't want to say circus because that's like being disrespectful. It just has, I don't know, carnival. Is that less disrespectful?
Very carnival. No, it's apt, dude. Very, very carnival-y. I do like this song. According to bassist Ernie Brooks Jonathan, who had a difficult time connecting and relating to women despite wanting to actually let me take that whole thing again. Jesus Christ, Morty, put a fucking comma in there. According to bassist Ernie Brooks, Jonathan, who had a difficult time connecting and relating to women despite wanting to, actually thought he could enter their dreams at night.
Wow.
All right, Freddy Krueger. Jesus.
Yeah, that's a little Richard Ramirez right there, dude. Takes Night Stalker to the next level, dude.
Night Stalker. Did you see the documentary?
No, that stuff freaks me out. I'm not a fan of that kind of. That's no.
Do you have a lot of nightmares? What are your dreams like?
I mean, just I don't. You know what it is, dude? Like I don't need this. I know what Richard Ramirez did. No diss. I know people are like, it's cool. It's cool, but it's just I know what happened. It's not rad, and I don't want to like. If I'm gonna spend time on this planet, I don't need to like check that out. Like I rather check something else out that I could, walk away with feeling better about. I don't know. It's too gnarly. It's just like, when you watch those documentaries, like, where they go, and then the plane was upside. You're like, dude, I get it. Plane crashed, people died. I don't need to fucking watch that shit. I rather see something, that I could, like Shark Week. Whenever they show Shark Week, I'm like, no.
Oh, I thought you were about to say that's what you watch instead of Night Stalkers. Dude, I'm like, no to the Night Stalker, but great whites jumping out of the water to bite shit.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
And they always have the reenactment, like, we went down to the water. It felt like it was early that morning. I just knew something was wrong. And you're like, dude, don't go out there.
Is that what accent was that? Was that supposed to be Australia?
It was like Australian with an English dude, and their parents
just have a stroke.
Yeah, their parents met on a cruise. The mother was from Australia and the dad was from somewhere in England, and they had a kid that grew up in somewhere like on the East Coast. So like they
Southern California. Yeah, I mean, dude, Astroplane, great song. I do, like I said, I think it has that Doors vibe. All right, let's get to Old World. So this is a song about loving the past and having a great relationship with their parents.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Hold on. Let me take that again.
I like how he says he's a part of the old world.
Hold on. Let me take this again because I had actually edited something. So just for some, blah, 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 might be too tongue in cheek. Okay. So this is a song about loving the past and having a great relationship with their parents. And for a lot of artists, something like singing about having a great relationship with your parents is like cheesy as fuck. But with Jonathan, like it really does feel sincere.
Totally.
And I think and this might be one of my favorite moments on the record. Play 245, JT.
Well,
this is, from what I know of the Velvet Underground, this sounds exactly like the Velvet Underground. Am I wrong about that, or is this like?
I mean, I'm not gonna say it sounds exactly, but I hear where you're hearing it. Vocally, for me, it's totally different, and it's
sure.
It's not as dark. For me, Velvet Underground is sometimes can be, what you want. Why you listen to Velvet Underground is definitely moody. For this, I mean, dude, that drumming right there is just fucking in the pocket, and it makes you move it. And also think about what you just said. So he writes a song about having a good relationship with his parents. Like how, like no one ever picks up a guitar and says, hey dude, let's write songs about how we fucking dig our parents. Like how punk is that? That's punk.
So then how can this be considered like almost the originator of punk because
of that, just punk for me is everyone's going this way and you go, no, I'm going this way hard. You could say Sid Vicious, was he punk rock? Yeah, he's going to cut himself. He's going to get fucked up. Ian MacKaye, is he punk rock? Yeah, he's not going to get fucked up. He's going to be straight. He's going to, so it's like, it's just, it's as any artist, and this is just side tangent on, because people always say, what's punk? What's not punk? Ray Charles was punk, in my opinion. Dean Martin, Jerry Vale, all those crooners, some of them, followed one pattern. And Frank Sinatra, punk as fuck,
Yeah.
So like, I think when Jonathan Richman's doing this, it's that weird hybrid of like super cool music, but then the lyrics are totally different than what you would think. Like you just said, like he's saying, you know, he loves the old world. Like who's, you know, no one's going to say that. And then he just, that's his vibe. And then the way he's delivering it, before you know it, you're singing along and you're like, what am I? It's like, if you listen to the Misfits, I used to always trip on the Misfits. They're like Glenn Dan, like Felice Army. If you guys one band, did I call it Felice?
Felicia.
The Feliz,
Bye, Felicia.
the Feliz Navidad Army.
Sorry.
Feliz Cumpleaños,
So
whatever
the
it is.
Army with the Misfits, it's the same thing. You got Glenn Danzig singing these songs that almost sound like it's like Elvis Presley, this magnificent voice. But as a kid, I'm like, it would be like, hack the heads off little girls and put them on my wall. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. What am I singing? Hack the heads off little girls and put them on my wall. I want your skull. But it's like, it's sung so great that before you know it, it brings you in, you know, and you're on the journey. And I think with this record, that's kind of what it's, that hybrid. It's what makes it so cool. It's like you said, the Velvet Underground kind of Doorsy vibe, but then these lyrics, and then I keep saying it, it's the vocal delivery of Richmond that just makes it so unique and different.
No, I agree.
That's what
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
say.
anybody else could sing this song and give
Oh.
it the same vibe. It almost
way.
has to be a voice style like that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your parents. I don't know if we talked about this on the last one, but
Yeah.
I mean, were your parents supportive of you going into this punk rock career choice?
I think, I mean, oh yeah, totally. I mean, they were supportive as like, you know what it is? I don't know. They were supportive once they knew shit, nothing's, yeah, he's not,
He can't do shit. It's like,
yeah.
this has got anything.
Yeah. Like at a certain point when, you know, you're barely able to graduate high school, you know, I did go to college, which, you know, is a whole other story, but I think at a certain point, you know, for my mom and dad, from the time I was a little kid, they just knew like, this guy is so into this style of music, and it's not a phase. It's not just like a summer that he's into, you know, punk rock. Like it became such a passion for me. And I remember for my mom and dad, all my dad said to me was, you know, and my parents were so supportive in the sense, like I was always, you know, like I think I talked about it on the last podcast when we did it, was like, you know, I was a magician at 10. Like I did magic shows.
We talked about it. Yeah,
Yes.
I
You
never
know, I
forgot
loved
that shit, dude.
I
You can't
loved
forget
being
when
on-
your friend tells you that he's a magician.
Yeah, you know, so it's like I loved being on stage. And the thing I think that, you know, for me, like I always used to say, like when the first time I saw a punk rocker and it was at the skateboard park, it was like, it just, I don't know, I was just drawn to it. And I was like, what's that? And you see the spiky hair and the look, and maybe it just because it was theatrical. And back then it was so like, those kids, like, who are they? And then all of a sudden there's a music that goes with it. And then on top of it, for me, there's bands singing about not getting drunk. There's bands singing about, you know, not getting fucked up. And I'm like, dude, that's me. Like these lyrics speak to me. This kid speaks to me. Kevin Seconds, you know, what a cool name. His name's, is that really the Seconds family? Like, are there other people? Like I was so in, I thought the Ramones were really brothers for years until my friends like, dude, they're not. I'm like, what? Like, I totally believed it. So for me, my parents, I think they were like, you know, there's not a lot going on for him unless it does happen in that world. So let's, you know, my dad, you know, he had not a weird way, but he had such a great way of parenting to make sure I didn't turn into a blow it, in the sense that when I was living with him going to high school, I just wanted to go to punk rock shows every single weekend. Yeah. And he learned really quick, all right, I have to at least get this guy to graduate high school. So like I, you know, when Bad Religion would come to town, I'd be like, Dad, I want to go see Bad Religion. Okay, you got to get a B on your midterm. A B. He's like, B stands for Bad Religion. And I'd have to get a B. So I would cram and study and learn. And then, you know, I remember I wanted to see, you know, during the summer, you know, I wanted to go see like GBH or, you know, Peter and the Test Tube Babies or the Addicts. And my dad would only let me do that if I did something else. Like, you got to read this, you got to do that. And I would just jam. Okay, I'll do that. So he was using punk rock for me to, you know, basically learn what I was supposed to be learning. But at the same time, he knew how much I loved this music. And one thing I will say about my dad, he was a college professor, and he, you know, in the late 70s and through the 80s. So he saw punk rock when it came to America, and he knew those kids. He always says this. He always says, Joey, I would see these kids, these punkers in my, you know, in university. And I would say, I love those kids. Those are the different thinkers. Those are the kids I love, until it's your kid. Once it's your kid, you're like,
yeah,
I don't want
nobody
that.
wants that shit, dude. Yeah, dude, it's always fun to hang out with somebody on ecstasy, but I don't want to see my kid rolling balls on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine what that's kind of like, man. You know, my parents, I feel like are the same way. We're seeing me and being like, you know, all right, well, he wants to do comedy, he wants to do music. It's like, just try your best to fucking get something as a backup plan. Little do they know that all they're doing is just wasting our time. Like, let us go fucking full steam into punk or comedy or whatever the fuck it is.
But what I love though about you, Josh, though, you know, and it was even like, it was before COVID, when you remember the trip you took with your mom, and you used
Italy,
the money. Yeah. And I remember, like, you know, we were hanging out one night. I forgot where we were. And, you know, you told me how you got the cash to do it. And it was like, man, I'm paying for this trip off of what I do, you know, for a living and all the hard work. And I was like, man, what a solid thing to do for your mom. Because isn't the story your mom would always like, you know, what was the joke she would say?
Every time she gave me money, which was a lot when I was really broke, you know, she'd be like, "You're taking my Italy money."
There
And
you go.
I was like, "I'm going to take you one day." And then, you know, February of 2020, we got it in right before, like, as COVID was dropping, we got it in.
And you got out.
I was patient zero. I brought it down to America.
Oh,
I was the guy that got half of LA infected. I made it a super spreader. Every show I did was a super spreader.
That's what I loved that you did, because it was, you know what? I know the trip because you, and Jeremy Watkins had just remember we did a gig in, where was it? Reno?
In Reno, yeah.
In the snow, and we went remember we all went snowboarding together? That was one of the funnest days ever.
It feels like fucking lifetime ago, dude. And it was a year ago from right now.
Yeah.
I think it was January 20th.
Yeah, we get this gig. That's the best thing about comedy, is when you just get these gigs, and when, you know, at a certain point, when the person that hires you goes, you know, hey man, you know, do you know any other comics? And then right away you just think of like, who would be fun on this trip?
Who's fun to hang with? Yeah, that's it. It says no idea. Like, I don't give a shit if they have 2 minutes of material. If they are fun to hang with, dude, being a fun hang gets so many people booked.
Yeah,
so many.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, I haven't gotten to where I got in my life without, like, the talent is just, and the fun hang. What up? Who needs a beer? Yeah. What's up, dude?
You're human Prozac, bro.
Yeah. Just, dude, are you stoked? Totally. Psh, woo. Yeah. Best hang ever. Oh my gosh. Did Josh just freeze up on us?
Oh shit. It looks like he did.
That looks like the photo of Josh. Like, you know, dude, I miss Josh, and I just got to say, like, doing it. I mean, I'm sad that he's gone, man. I think of him every day. Can you see the frozen?
He's so happy. He should never change.
You know what? I'll say this is that, you know, when we lost Josh last year, it's been tough, man. I always remember the last time I saw him, we were doing a podcast together. And you know what? He died doing what he loves. He died doing the podcast, you know, and sure, they never finished all 500 records, but it didn't matter to Josh, because Josh knew that this podcast was everything.
Sib, that means you got to take over the mantle. The torch is passed.
Oh my gosh, man. There you go. I'll tell you right now, we haven't talked about, you know, he's going through the songs. I'll tell you right now that obviously we're going to talk about Pablo Picasso. That was the song that was my gateway into finding out about, you know, Jonathan Richman, Modern Lovers.
I'm obsessed with Cubism and Picasso, so it's blasphemy, but I mean, it's like you said, that's what punk is, right?
Totally. And the thing about Richman is, you know, he would just go so different on us. Are we getting Josh back, or are we done?
Let's get him. Let me see where he's at here. I'll call him.
I'm going to take a leak really quick.
Yeah,
Can I take a leak? Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Hold on. I don't know what happened.
It's cool. He ran to the bathroom.
Okay. I don't know what happened.
The look on your face was so priceless on Zoom.
Yours was funny too. Everybody.
You looked very happy. Sib did a little eulogy for you.
Did he? Fuck, it's like we're already at an hour.
I know. And we're on track 3?
4. I've just skipped shit.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, here you come. He's showing AWA.
All right, sorry about that.
Josh, you gotta ask Jeremiah to play you what I said when you froze.
Yeah.
Because the picture of you were like this. And it looks so much like we're doing the charity benefit for you because you passed away. And we're just like, you know, man, I got to say when I see this photo of Josh, it just reminds me, he died doing what he loved doing. That was the thing about him, man. He died, he loved vaping and he just died one day doing it. And the fact that he vaped, that's the thing. No one knew how he vaped. I mean, sure, he said he loved comedy. Bullshit. He loved vaping. He didn't even love doing the podcast. He just loved having a time to vape and bullshit about records. Like that was his vibe. And I got to say, I'm going to miss him and I will never look at a vape ever the same way again, man.
Can you show me a picture of it? I want to see that. I want to see how Cheeseball McGee I look.
It was great.
It was great.
The Fleece Army will see it on Patreon.
Oh my God. Okay.
The Felice.
All right, so let's pick it up from where we left off.
Pablo Picasso.
Pablo motherfucking Picasso. He keeps repeating this phrase throughout the entire song, and I did a little bit of research. So let's play the phrase first. All right, that's it. That's all I need to play. So I Googled Pablo Picasso asshole.
Yeah.
And literally 20 pages are about him being an asshole. So he was a womanizer.
Yep.
He disowned some of his kids, but in my opinion, the most asshole thing about him was how long his name was. His full name is Pablo Diego Jose Francisco de Paula Nepomuceno Maria de los Remedios Cipriano de la Santisima Trinidad Martyr Patricio Clito, swear to God, Clito Ruiz y Picasso.
Wow.
Pompous.
Yeah.
Clito. Nobody guys, nothing on Clito.
I'm just telling you, throw that into your scene. Josh, Clito, Adam Myers.
So you like this song a lot, right?
Honestly, it wasn't my favorite at all.
Really?
Nah.
Why did I assume that you liked it?
It was one, like I said to Jeremiah, like it was one of those songs that showed up on a comp. It was like, it would always be the song that if they were going to play, something by the Modern Lovers, it was this song. And it just, for me, it didn't resonate with me. I was like, all right, cool. It felt like more of a novelty song than like, when I look at the rest of the songs on there, She's Cracked, or, obviously the next one, Hospital, amazing, Modern Love, just I'm Straight. Like this song to me just wasn't my jam.
No, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being so honest, Joe.
It felt novelty. Like
okay, well, let's get to the one that you don't think, and that's She's Cracked.
Oh yeah, wait, She's Cracked. The next song is, just can we start the intro on this? It's just so, you're in. Here we go.
You're 100% here. Play it.
Oh, I'll grab the intro real quick. It'll take 1 second.
Yeah, it's all good.
She Cracked.
The intro is so beautiful.
So I'll say this right off the jump. From what little I know about punk rock, this is punk rock. Go ahead and play it.
Look like a planet. Get to the chorus. Here you go. Chorus.
No, well, all right. Well, get through it. No, hold on. You get through that part. Don't worry about it. It's already. Excuse me.
Wow.
So when we were talking about the combination of the Velvet Underground and the Stooges, this is that. This is that 100%.
Okay.
We're talking about Jonathan being this sensitive person And I mean, if you want to think about a song, if you want to say what song represents that, this is it, my opinion, because he's talking about, dating this girl. He's in love with this like self-destructive lady, and it's incompatible with his lifestyle. I mean, I love this line I pulled. She'd eat garbage, eat shit, get stoned. I stay alone, eat health food at home. Dude, I have been in that relationship.
Dude, I'm telling you, that when we started this, that was the lyric I quoted. That is so rad when he says, he's basically saying, like, he's ahead of his time. She's going out, getting loaded, and he's at home like you, Josh, sit-ups, kettlebells, drinking, staying sober, vaping. I mean, might not be vaping, but like, you know what I'm saying? Dude, this is your jam. This is you, Josh. This is who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that Chris Rock joke is that, if you go to church and she smokes crack, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the truth. And I've been in that relationship, so I 100% related to this song. Yeah. Have you ever dated somebody that was just fucking like, what's the most incompatible relationship you've ever had? And it could also be with fucking somebody in a band or something.
I would say I've never dated or been with anyone that was like incompatible like that, but I would definitely say, when you're in a band, like I would say, like I could say that, when I was in Wax, probably, I was, we were incompatible, not with like drugs or anything like that, but just by like, hey man, maybe you should wash your clothes once in a while. Like just, maybe we take a shower. I don't know. No, we're not gonna. Okay, got it. Like that's, just, hey, maybe we don't wear the same, dude, when we left California 3 months ago, those pants were on you and they're still on you. And now we're back home, wow. Okay. Like, I think that was the most incompatible, like the most
it's a hard word
incompatibility that I ever had with people. But I was lucky that I've been super blessed that the people around me, I haven't ever had like drug or alcohol or like something where it's so like out of control that like it affects my relationship with them. I have been around people that are on cocaine and I didn't know they were. And I thought, wow, I've met my tribe. Like these people are stoked. And then later on they say, no, we're on cocaine. I go, oh, okay. And I'm not. And they go, you're not? No way.
So we're not starting a business together?
Dude, a band, business, dude, so many up late at night. We're going to start a cover band. And it's, dude, so many bands started. So many.
All right, let's move on to Hospital. This is recorded in 71 from their first demos while still in Boston. So what's this about, everybody? Some have considered this something of a stalker anthem or an ode to a prostitute. What do you think?
I never got that vibe, but I also thought people weren't on cocaine that were. So I don't know. So yeah, don't go by me.
So this is pretty interesting. So Jonathan has introduced this live by saying it's about a Jewish princess. However, there might be something to that stalker idea because there is a legend that Jonathan slept all night on the lawn in the rain outside the window of his future wife while she was married to and sleeping with someone else.
Wow.
And that
I'm down for everything that he did right there, except with it raining. That's where I might bail. I mean,
that's when you cut it.
That's right. I can sleep I'm in the front. It's cold. Okay. I love her. I'm going to prove to her. But once it starts raining, I don't know. Are you going to bail? Are you going to?
Dude, I've done some fucking crazy shit for, I'm not a stalker, but when I was in my early 20s, man, I remember like when I heard this song and I read that, I was like, fuck, man, that if this would have happened in the fucking, when I was like 22. Yeah, man. One time I met this girl, we hooked up. I met her on I was DJing a show. She showed up to actually train to be a DJ for the same private party company I was working for. And we went out, we made out at the National Cathedral. I dropped her off. She gave me her number. And then the next day I called her like 50 times because I was trying to get her to pick up the phone. And I was like, and like looking back at that, I'm like, what were you doing, man? Like 50 times. Now, luckily, at least I don't think they had caller ID. I mean, they might have. And if they did, then I'm a fucking nutball. But dude, man,
if I did that back in the day, dude, we had answering machines. So that it goes, dude, leave a message at like a full on cassette style. Like,
I remember that.
yeah, dude. Remember how the outgoing message was everything you had? That was the Instagram of like, you had to put, I remember I used to put music on it. I used to like work on, my dad would go, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, outgoing message. Okay, got it. Like, it was so important, that outgoing message on your machine, man.
So wait, did you do it like this? Hold on, let me set it up. Hold on, give me a second. I gotta get the right song. Hold on.
Here we go.
Hold on, wait, no, give me this.
Okay.
Yeah, let it load. All right, let's do this one. So it would be like, hold on, give me a second. There it is. So. Yo, what's up, everybody? You reached Josh Adam Myers. I'm not here right now, but leave a voice. Wait, fuck, I fucked it up again. I'd have to do this. We do the whole thing again.
Oh my God.
Because we're gonna have to edit it. I don't want to fuck this up. Hey, yo, this is Josh Adam Myers. I'm not home right now, but leave your name, number, and I'll call you back as soon as I can. Peace out, y'all.
No, that wouldn't be my message. My message was like this, dude. This was me. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joe Sib, man. There's a party this weekend. Looks like it's going to be over near the lake. And then, hey, man, we got a jock party going on in Blossom Hill. Leave your number at the tone. Late.
All right, that was way better than mine. All right, so let me do a different one. So I'd be like,
dude, these sound like 976 calls.
what's up, everybody? It's Josh. I'm not here right now, but leave a name, number, and I'll call you back. It just doesn't work. I always sound like a strip club DJ.
Paul's
Yeah, all I love about yours, and I'm gonna date myself so much. When we were growing up, there was always, and dude, you remember these from New York? You remember 976? Like, hey, are you alone? Call 976. Talk to me. You know, you're like, dude, as a kid, you're like, dude, I gotta call that number right now. You know, like,
yeah,
dude, your messages sound like when you called the number, there was always a dude like you on there. Hey, we need your credit card number, and if you're under 18, keep that to yourself. Okay,
if you're under 18.
and yet
Just don't tell us.
The bill would come and your parents are like, who's calling 976 numbers? And you're like living there. I don't know. Just totally. I don't know.
Dude, I got caught doing that with a Miss Cleo thing. I called like Miss Cleo like 7 times the night that Cal Ripken Jr. ended his streak, just to give everybody an idea. So it was like 2000, maybe like, no, I'm sorry. It's like 1998. And me and my buddy got drunk and we called Miss Cleo like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And you're supposed to get the first 12 minutes free. But what I didn't know was you get 12 minutes free, but you get the first 2 minutes free on the first 6 phone calls. And that bill came just on a day that I had been day drinking and I fell asleep at like 5 p.m. And that was the first day me and my dad fought.
Oh, dude.
And I took him.
Oh.
Not a really happy ending story, but I'll give you a funny, happy fact. Jerry Harrison, this demo was actually given to the record company from the private collection of last week's guest, Jerry Harrison, Modern Lovers keyboardist, who had the only copy lying around.
Wow.
That's what's so cool about this record is that there's like they had to like go like put it together piece by piece.
Yeah.
Because like it had just all gone by the wayside.
And at that point, like you said, they had already all moved on by the time it came out. So, you know, that's like, I mean, there's other stories like that, I assume, but for me, that when I heard that, I always was like, wow. And then, you know, like we said earlier, they went on to start so many different careers in other bands.
What's the lesson there? Always record and hold on to your old shit.
Like, always hold on. Just the way I'm holding on to shekels. Always hold on to your Jewish hip hop group albums that you made in your parents' basement. All right, Someone I Care About. This, in my opinion, is the most rocking song about being a hopelessly sensible romantic. JT, play it.
Strong.
I mean, listen to what he's saying, dude. He's talking. He's like, I don't want a girl just to fool around with. Like, this dude wants love, man. I mean, I appreciate that. I really is. I think what's actually drawing me in to like this record even more, because there's so many guys, you know, in music, which is like, yeah, fucking fuck her and I leave her because I'm a player, blah 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 blah. But this is like really sweet and sensitive.
Once again, the hybrid. You got that music. I mean, just that song right there, you know, moving, and it's that hybrid with the lyrics you're talking about. Totally different for what people were putting out there. It wasn't like, I'm gonna love you and leave you, you know, oh my gosh, you know, I slept with you and then I bail. Like, and if you go to the straight edge, dude, like, you know, we're gonna go down to the next song, you know, pretty soon, where it's I'm straight, but you know, straight edge, you know, don't drink, don't smoke, don't fuck.
Yeah.
That's like the 3 core things. And he's going to say later, you know, he's straight. And at this point, he's saying, I want more of a girl, like you said, to not to fool around with, but to be in love.
But I didn't know that you can't fuck if you're straight edge.
Well, like it was, the whole thing with straight edge was like, it wasn't, I don't like, once again, I said this earlier, I'm not saying I know like the straight edge. I mean, I know the straight edge movement because it started when I was growing up, but my take on it was the don't smoke. Obviously I got that, the don't drink. And then the don't fuck meant, from what I gathered from it, was you're not just sleeping around and using women and being a womanizer, or women using men for sex. You're like, if that moment's going to happen, it's got to be more than just, hey, we're doing this just to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I took from that. Now I'm going to get a bunch of, for everyone that's starting to go on my Instagram and just say, you don't know.
The straight edge movement is going to fucking rip you apart, Joe Sib.
But the point being is, a lot of people, and I don't know if this is documented anywhere, but I've heard a lot of people that are involved in the straight edge scene and that were, you know, super into it. They would say that these lyrics that Jonathan Richman had, that were some of the earlier straight edge lyrics, because what was going on at the time was not the type of lyrics you're picking up on being sung all the time.
So it's funny that you say that, talking about lyrical stuff. So John Cale is quoted saying years later about Jonathan's song and the band that they were not aggressive, they were weak. There was a definitive weakness about the music, and this weakness kept on developing and developing until it was still just a weakness. And I believe that. I think that's kind of the trait of this band, that it is so sincere.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this like Jonathan has value. You know he has values because he walked away from when Modern Lovers finally comes out and they're like, we want more of this music. And he's like, no, I don't want to do this kind of music anymore. I want to make these like hopelessly romantic songs.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the next song is Girlfriend. So that kind of follows still in the same tradition of somebody that, you know, that wants one. This is pro girlfriend. This isn't anti-girlfriend.
No. Yeah.
So this, in my opinion, really kind of echoes like the late 50s and early 60s like pop ballads. Like this sounds like the same shit that influenced like Bruce Springsteen. Play 137, bro. So kill it. So this is a pretty interesting take. So he spells girlfriend Girlfren, and that works with the rhythm of the song. But I wonder if this is a Freudian like double meaning by leaving out the letters I and D to both represent that which would bring Jonathan's identification, as well as the absence of his id or his base desires.
Did you think of that, or someone?
No, Morty did. So we probably shouldn't say it.
Yeah, the way you were saying that, I was like, okay, you know, you're reading this from a piece. I was like, if
this is why I want to change the show, because I don't want to fucking read things like this anymore, because I wouldn't think this. But then also, if I don't read it, it's just us going, I like this. This is really good, and that's boring too. So
I'm sorry.
You had to.
No, so we're gonna have to cut that out now, and now I'll get yelled at by the writer because I missed.
Wait, we can do it again. Just
so all right. So here's an interesting take that Morty wrote.
Okay.
So, girlfriend in the song is spelled Girlfren.
Yeah.
And he says it works with the rhythm, but also he wonders if there is a Freudian double meaning by leaving out the letters I and D to both represent that which would bring Jonathan's identification as well as the absence of his id or base desires.
Wow. You and I did not come up with that.
Not at all. I can't think
Yeah.
like that. I
Wow.
would have been like, he left some letters out.
When you read that though, that could be a real idea. I know that I can't go to that place, but I just thought he took the word, like maybe he didn't know how to spell it or something. Like,
well, it works with the rhythm of the song.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
but but musically, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what makes it a little bit interesting by leaving out those two things. I mean, listen, I kind of think that, you know, obviously Jonathan was like a smart guy, and you have someone like Jerry Harrison in the band who went to Harvard. So
all of them were smart, man.
All of them are smart. So yeah, so maybe that was like a whole play, or it's just, you know, it's like I'm trying to think of what other songs kind of misspell shit. What give me a song that's like famous at
Everything Today.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say everything's. Yeah, I don't know about a particular song that might have it, but I think what you're hitting on though is that's one of the things that made Modern Lovers and this particular record so cool was that they could have dished it up in a way that was so predictable, but once again, that hybrid of the lyrics along with the music and putting it together. And like you just said, I mean, you have people that, you know, were going to Harvard. It wasn't like, hey, dude, we're all in community college and we're not pulling it. It's like these people are smart. And the music reflects that, but it's also done in a way though, I gotta say, because for me personally, it would have turned me off. It was done in like a snarky way. Like I can't stand it when I know, like, you know, when you're with someone that is smart and you listen, you're like, wow, this is great. But someone that's snarky, that's like, I'm better than you. And you're like, all right, I get it. Like they didn't do that. That's what I liked about it.
No, I completely agree. I mean, that's the charm of Jonathan.
Yeah. But
they wouldn't have put him in There's Something About Mary if he was a fucking dick.
But the thing that I think that's so ironic about the band is, you know, when you listen to these songs, the feeling that, you know, you get, Josh, or the feeling that everyone got when they listened to it is almost so different. Like when you just said, you know, them being weak, that became a weakness, you know, that for people that like for me or other people that grew up on like harder punk rock, this still spoke to them, which is just wasn't probably like when they were doing this, they probably weren't, like I said, that song, She's Cracked, was covered by this band called Seaweed. I doubt they ever thought it would have that type of influence on other musicians that were so into hardcore and punk rock, you know, like, and it makes sense why Jonathan was like, yeah, that's not who I am. And this is who I am. So that's, I just think it's ironic.
No, I agree. You know what we should have done, Jeremiah? We should have fucking pulled clips from last week's episode to play here. Yeah, we should have done that.
Yeah. Well, think about, actually, I was thinking about Velvet Underground. Velvet is kind of a soft word, isn't it? Like, or a texture or whatever. And like Modern Lovers, and it's like weakness. It all kind of like fits in the same path.
Guns N' Roses. Like, it's the same.
No, that's why they did it. That was why they did it. They did Guns N' Roses. Because if it was called Guns and Missiles, you'd be like, fuck this fucking, these hardcore people. Yeah. It's like, no, it's too guns are bad. Roses
are cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, and cool. I didn't know roses were cool, but I guess they are. Are they cool?
Pretty rad, bro.
I was more of a daffodil. I thought daffodils were the most roses fucking cool. Boss flowers. All right. Last song on this record, Modern World. This is about Jonathan trying to convince a girl to live in the present moment with him, which I love because I spend 20 minutes a day meditating to get there. JT, go ahead and play it. I love that line. There it is. I love that line. Put down the cigarette and drop out of BU. Because that brings to mind a lot of Jonathan's early free shows at Boston Common, Cambridge Common, and Harvard Square that caught the interest of Jerry and Ernie. So I know this isn't like, you know, it wasn't like the sequencing on this record is like, oh, we're going to go from this song to this song. This is just the songs that they recorded
Yeah.
at different years, or 71, 72, and 73, and they put it together. But for the framing of this record, what we've all just listened to together, Roadrunner, you open the record with. Do you open this? Do you close this with Modern World?
I mean, for me, I don't, I'm not going to say like that song is my favorite. I'm not going to lie. It's cool, but I don't know. For me, yeah, I don't know. That's a interesting question. I think I mean, the song's cool and I like it, but I'm going to just be honest. It's not like my go-to. Like if I'm going to listen to this record and pinch 3 songs from it, or if I'm going to, if I'm spinning and someone's like, yo, dude, I'm not going to play that song. That would just be me. I don't know why.
Amen.
I feel like I'm telling, like, I don't know why I'm delivering this information like Jonathan Richman's staring back at me right now.
Well, he's right here right now. John, come out, buddy.
No,
I agree. I think where this album is, where I want to call it the negatives, because I don't think really it's a negative thing about it, is that this is just them assembling all those songs and kind of laying that out there for you. I don't think there was like a real thought process between we put this one into this one. Yeah. Maybe, from my knowledge, it doesn't feel like it has that flow.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't even. I mean, do we know? Like, did the band sequence it? Did someone at the label sequence it? Like, I don't know. Like you said, it was recorded so many different times. It wouldn't be surprising if someone kind of else came up with a sequence. Maybe it wasn't them. I don't know.
I don't think I have the thing in
quick
front of me.
Modern question for Sibby. So like, tell me, like, they're called Modern Lovers, right? And then the music comes out so much later. So it's like, how modern could it be? Or they're ahead of their time or whatever. But like now when music is dropped on Fridays or whatever, it's a single or whatever, like the industry now, as you're very much still involved, like, what is your take on like modern and like how quick shit gets out compared to back in the day?
Oh man. I mean, I often think about with technology and music and everything going on in the world. I mean, imagine if Lennon and McCartney had access to what we're just using right here. Imagine how many more Beatles songs we would have had. Imagine if Zeppelin had access to literally what we're using here, these microphones, this computer. Like, okay, let's run it. Like, dude, let's do another song. That to me, I always think about that, because back then it was like, hey, we're going to, even a cassette player to record and things like that. And how the experience of being in a band was so different then to now. The thing I think it's a double-edged sword in the sense that I think being able to record music and get it out as quickly as you can, and that it's not a 6-month period. It's not, hey, once we start recording, we have to go into the studio and we're going to do it this way. People are making great records, in bedrooms, and people and kids are recording amazing records. I mean, when I first started signing bands and started working with bands, it was a whole process of, hey, we have these songs. Okay, let's find the right studio. Let's find the right time that we're going to do it. And now what ends up happening, which is great, is a band could be like, hey man, we've already self-produced our record. Hey, we already have this done. We want to do this. And you're like, okay, we just need a team around us to release this record. The only drawback I have, and oddly enough, we were talking about my son, and he just recently experienced this, is because you can just put stuff on SoundCloud so quick. He had the experience of, shit, I didn't master that.
Yeah.
That sounds like shit.
Too fast for it.
He got bummed. And I'm like, and it was funny because we were at lunch together, and it was, we'll all know this. It's like, he's like, yeah, man, I dropped this song. I'm so psyched on it. And I'm like, how, what are how many comments? He's like, yeah. And he's listening to it and he's like, damn it. And I go, what happened? He's like, dude, I just didn't finish the mix and I got so excited on it. I should have. And I go, yeah, you got to listen to it in the car because that's where everyone's going to listen. You got to listen to it on your phone. That's where they're going to listen to it. And he was like, it was that moment watching my son go through the same thing I've gone through as a singer in a band, where you're like, oh, so you mean going into the studio? The true story with Atlantic Records. And they asked us, hey, Wax, we want you to demo 2 songs. And then we're going to listen to them. And then we'll talk about possibly, signing the band. we don't go into Cherokee Studios in Hollywood to record 2 songs. We come up with the bright idea because they're giving us the studio at night after hours. Like, hey, come in at 8:00, and you'll leave at 1 in the morning. We're like, no, we're gonna record 12 songs. So then we give 12 shitty songs to Atlantic, and they're just like, okay, like, nah, we wanted 2 that were really good. So you learn those lessons as you go. And the only thing I would say and I think it happens to stand up a lot, man. We record a bit, you have a video, and you're so psyched on it, and you think the bit is done. You're like, oh my God, it'll never be better. And then you throw it on YouTube, and sure, it might react and everyone loves it. And then all of a sudden you're doing the bit, and a year later you're like, damn, that bit is so much better now because I have the tags where they need to be. I paced it better, and I got so excited. I just threw it up there. And it's not like music. People, once they know the ending, they're like, okay, I saw this like a year ago. Now we're doing a new version. There's no like the remix of the bit. Like, that doesn't exist in comedy. And that's I think sometimes the downside to the fact that we can record and release so quick, because you might not let it's like making pasta, dude. Like, we all know, like, you cook it on Sunday and the sauce is good Sunday night, but dude, Wednesday night, when it's just been all in there mixing, that's the
coagulated.
Yeah, dude, that's the equivalent of music. You got to take the song on the road. In my opinion, you got to take it on the road. You got to let it breathe. You got to let people listen. You got to see, okay, okay, cool. And then boom, then you record it. That can be a great moment. But, people are also like, I don't know, Weekend, like, great songs. I don't know, like, he might be like, dude, I don't do any of that. It's just, this is the way I do it. And I'd be like, okay, cool. Those are jams, man, that I love. So I don't know how long they sit in the oven before he puts them out.
Getting the mixing 100% you have to get done, but the idea of like noodling around with something too long, and then you wait too long to perfect it, and you get a Chinese democracy.
Dude, I'm a firm believer of all of the songs that I wrote that ever did anything in my musical career. Like, in Wax, dude, the song California, that was the jam. That was the one that fucking broke us open. And we wrote that song in 3 minutes. Like, we were both, me and the bass player, we went drinking, and he was like, he had this idea for a drum beat, and he all night long, he's just doing that. And then we went over to the studio. I threw the bass on. He's like, dude, just play this rhythm. Okay, cool. I'm playing a rhythm. He starts playing the drums. And then all of a sudden, our real drummer comes in, guitar player comes in. He comes up with the hook. They went to the next level. But all of that shit, I'm writing lyrics over in the corner. We wrote that song in 3 minutes. Now, the songs that you spend, 6 days on, and it's like you hear with the Beatles, the same thing, like, if it has that natural momentum and tying it into comedy, I know the best bits I've ever come up with are the bits that you're riffing with a bro, and they go, oh my God, dude, do you say that on stage?
Yeah.
And you're like, no. And then you write it down, and then you go on stage, and it just, if it just hits, because it was so natural. It wasn't like, and I know you've done this, Josh, where like you're like, all right, dude, I'm going to go on this like bit that's going to be so awesome. And then all of a sudden you're just like, after, 3 times of trying it, you're like, dude, this isn't working. It's just like, it either has the natural momentum or it doesn't.
Best jokes I've ever written are the ones that I thought, and then I said the exact way that I thought, and it's always works.
Yeah.
And anytime I try to like noodle with something, well, I don't want to do this yet. It's like, dude, you just got to fucking do it. You got to get it out there, And what's great though, is that I'm not, as a comic, I'm not going to be recording every bit and posting it until I'm like, oh, this is done. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know this is done. Now I'm going to put this out on a record, or I'm going to put it out on a, online.
I think what happens though is when you start, like when you start, at least for me, I look back at old material that's out there and it's so cringy, and I'm like, oh my God. But at the time I thought it was ready because people were laughing. And then you realize, oh man, what kind of laugh do you want to get? Like, you don't really know that. And I think the same thing happens with music sometimes. You're starting a song, you're like, let's do this. I tell bands all the time, they're like, we're ready to record. Are you ready to record? What? And I used to always say this to bands too. They're like, but you don't understand. We have to get the record out now. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because they want it out now. And I remember I used to always say, like, you've never seen anyone get the Grammy and go, we just want to thank my mom, thank my dad, and I do gotta say, if this record would have came out like 3 months earlier, I think it would have been a lot cooler. Like they don't, they never say that. They always say, when it's time, it's time. But I think even with this whole Modern Lovers record, it is such a unique story of different songs being recorded, coming out at a different time, and then the way it was received. And then even Jeremiah with your asking about the technology and how that affects. I think now, today, more than ever, if you're a musician, what a great time to be a musician, because you can get your music out without getting signed and without having, you don't have to, there's not that gatekeeper anymore. Well, let's see. Well, you know what? Let's see if it's good enough. Hey, is there a lot of shitty music out there? Absolutely. But like, you can also do what my son did, start his SoundCloud, and all of a sudden, he's got people saying, dude, make me a beat. So it's like, that to me is the exciting part. And then, I think with record companies and record labels, you always want an extra set of ears and eyes to help you, reach your thing. But this record is definitely the Modern Lovers, man. I mean, once again, dude, it never goes down the way you think it's going to go down. So
and that actually leads into the first fact that I'm going to do about how it doesn't end up the way you think it's going to end up. So besides Jonathan being thought of as a godfather of punk, every member of the band went on to solid careers. Jerry Harrison to Talking Heads, David Robinson to the Cars, Ernie Brooks to several popular solo artists like David Johansen, and even founding member John Felice, hopefully I said that right, who left before this record formed the popular Boston power pop band, The Real Kids. So I wanted to ask you, being that you were a frontman in Wax, in 22 Jacks, you start the record label, and then you become this great comic. When did you first feel that decision was accepted by both communities?
Took a long time. I think because I remember, especially with comedy, I felt like when I was hanging, like I learned really quick over in the comedy world, they weren't, I don't want to say people weren't welcoming, but they definitely there was definitely like so what do you do? Who are you? Like a little, just like, so now you're doing comedy. Like I felt like I always felt the equivalent of when I was a singer in a band, if an actor all of a sudden started singing, I was like, fuck that, bro. You're an actor. You're not in my world, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you remember how we had those actors that like, I'm going to start a band, and they put out a couple
Kevin Bacon, Russell Crowe.
Not those dudes. I'm saying like, it was just different. It would be more like, it wasn't like the caliber of actors that the Bacon brothers. I always watch their Instagram. I love their stuff. But anyway, I'm saying like more of a poppy actor that would just like all of a sudden go, I'm going to be a musician. Now whether or not they were a musician first or second or whatever, I just felt like that to me was always like, you're in my world. So then when I went from comedy over, when I went from being at the House of Blues to going over and hanging out at the Laugh Factory, or, going over to the Improv, I felt a little bit like when I was meeting people, and I understand now why, because what you're saying is, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at singing and being a frontman. Now I think I could be pretty good at being a comic. And that's just so wrong. It's like, being good at comedy is like, dude, I'm telling you right now, if you want to be a person in a band and make a living playing music, I can personally tell you, you have a way better chance of doing that as a musician, and you'll have a better life than doing that as a comic. Comedy is so obsessive, and so there's no like, I want to be a great comic, I'm gonna kind of do it. Like, you're fucking later bail. Like, that's not gonna start. Like, anybody that is and Josh knows this with Burr and all, Jim Brewer, all of these guys that are monsters on stage, they are so immersed in it that other parts of their life, it's like, just don't happen. Like, oh, Christmas time with family. No. Oh, you're just making this your life. Whereas I'll be honest, when you're in a band, you have other people you can lean on. Dude, I just felt like I was on stage tonight. Dude, don't worry about it. It's all good. When you're a comic, no one says that to you. Like maybe a bro, like, and it's like, I don't know, I felt weird on stage. And like another comic will say, yeah, it sucked. You know, like you're like, fuck. Like in music, there's, you know, you have your band, but in comedy, from my personal experience, it is such it's such a solo grind, man. And I respect, that's why I respect all those dudes and women that have made it, because dude, I'll be honest, man. Like I remember the first time I went and did my first headline weekend, and I'm by myself for 4 days in a hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, and you know, you don't know the feature, and there's no, you know, you're not hanging, and you're just like, wow. I mean, that to me was such a new
It's
thing.
so different. Yeah.
Because
If you
with a
like
band,
isolation, it's the greatest thing in the world. You know
yeah,
what I mean? But there's like, I'm going to Minnesota in like 2 weeks to headline House of Comedy. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I'm going to be not only alone there, but it's freezing
yeah,
outside and it's COVID.
yeah.
Mall of
So
America. You're gonna go hang
Yeah.
out at the Mall of America for?
The thing I'm
I'm gonna
saying
come
is
back
like,
with like five my ear pierced 7 times.
yeah.
Like,
The thing I'll say though is that like, and the thing is that that's why my respect, like I've always had respect for comedians my whole life. I've loved comedy my whole life, but you know, I respect comedians. That's why I can't bag on a comic that's out there doing it, even if people don't like them or whatever, or like her. I can't do it because I know how hard it is and how lonely it is and how you're just in your head all the friggin' time. And that's just me 11 years in. And I would say, you know, in the community for me, I was lucky enough that, you know, and I started in LA, which is a nightmare. Everyone says, oh my, like, I don't know if you could start in LA again anymore. I mean, especially now with COVID, but for me, I got lucky because I was at least in a community where like meeting people like Josh, Eric Griffin. I mean, I'll just say straight up, if it wasn't for Eric Griffin, he was the first, you know, real comic. Brody Stevens. I remember Brody, I was at the Comedy Store. I was scared shitless. And he came right over to me and he just was like, you know, hey, you know, in that Brody, so you play music. So, you know, or you did music, you know, like that, those type of people were cool to me. You know, Eric Griffin, I would say in the beginning, super cool. Greg Barrett, you know, he was super just welcoming, and it was cool, you know. Like I remember Greg Barrett and I he used to laugh because he wanted to be in a band and I wanted to be a comic. He'd be like, "Why do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Dude, I love it. I can't wait." He goes, "I want to do what you do. I want to play music." You know, he had a surf band and everything, and all we would do is hang out. And he would just ask me questions about music, and I would ask him questions about comedy. And he gave me the best advice ever. I was featuring for him, and I kept asking him all weekend, "Come on, man, you know, give me some advice." You know, okay. Tomorrow night. And finally, at the end of the trip, he goes, "Words are like furniture." I go, "They are?" He goes, "Yeah, you just got to keep moving them around until you find the right combination." And I was like, "Okay, I get that."
That's awesome.
he's right. Now, you know what? That's 100% right. Jesus Christ. By moving one word in a joke, it completely changes everything. And it could just be moving, you know, like saying sassafras at the end. And they're like, oh, that's the most genius joke ever. Well, because I moved, the sassafras was earlier. Nope, you put it at the end.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say too is stand up is the thing that I loved, you know, so much about it is the words and the placement of the words. And, you know, like I remember one time I spent a year trying to do like a 5-minute set, you know, like I was going to do my 5-minute late night set. And then I turned into this weird thing where like, I remember I went to go do a spot somewhere and I'm like, "Hey, can I do my 5?" And the guy goes, "Man, sorry, dude." And I'm like, "Do you got any time?" He's like, "I mean, I got 3 minutes if you can do that." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I was like, I did it and it worked. And then I was like, I started getting into this weird thing and this was for a year, dude, that I started doing like 2-minute sets. Like I was into I loved the less time on stage and to get laughs. Like I was like, okay, dude, like I would listen to my recording. Okay, I got the laugh. I got the first laugh in 9 seconds. I got the first laugh in 11. I got to trim that. Like I just nerded out on it. I remember I watched all these Dangerfield clips when he was on Carson. And I remember he had this joke where he goes, "Yeah, I said to my kid, someday you'll have kids of your own." And my kid said, "So will you." And my head exploded. I was like, I wrote down those words. And I remember I had them on a notepad and I just started counting them. And I'm like, God damn, the word efficiency in this is fucking amazing. And that's the reason why I don't like musicians in comics and people that, perform like that, I have so much respect for them because once you go to that place, dude, there's no way out. Like if you truly commit to it in one way, like fucking more power to you, stoked for you. In another way, you're fucked because there's no way to get out of it. Like you get addicted to it.
Yeah. Same thing with fentanyl. Right? Everybody? My go-to drug of choice is fentanyl. Proud sponsor of the 500, everybody. Fentanyl. If your life is going nowhere, try fentanyl. And it really will go nowhere.
I love how like I got all quiet and I looked at you. I'm like, here it comes. Josh is just gonna throw some fucking.
Well, you're dropping science. It's hard for me to fucking, to go, no, you're wrong, or have a joke about that. What you're saying is so true, dude. But this is actually a good fact, and it's about drugs. Hold on. Okay. So, and you brought the song up, "I'm Straight," which the band recorded shortly after the first. Which let me take it again. Which the band recorded shortly after these first sessions, and which fuck you, Morty. Let me take it again. So which the band recorded shortly after these first sessions, and which was added onto this record when it was re-released. And it was honestly about how, and this is going to get to the bottom of what we were talking about, he never used drugs. Sometime later, though, Jerry got him to take a puff of a joint, and he got a strange look on his face and announced, "Jerry, I'm going to have to hit you with a frying pan because I have to hurt somebody in order to know that I am stoned and I'm not myself," before he was talked down. Wow. I think that Jerry talked about that on the last podcast.
Did he really?
Jerry? He might have mentioned it. I feel like
did he tell that story?
I think he did. All right. Moving on to this one, though.
Wait, really quick.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you could just play like that first line of, "I called this number 3 times today,
play it,
but I got scared. I hung it up. I put the receiver back." I just want everyone to hear that because I've said it the whole podcast.
Yeah, I'll play it. I'll come back to it.
Yeah, just do where his lyrics start. You don't have to put the whole beginning in there.
Are you gonna find it?
Okay. Sorry.
Hold on. I'll find it. I might be able to find it faster than he did.
I called this number.
Come on, you fucking.
Called this number 3 times already today, but I got scared. I put it back in place.
So
put
good.
my phone back in place. I still don't know if I should have called up. Look, just tell me, why don't you, if I'm out of place. 'Cause here's your chance to make me feel awkward and wish.
So not to cut it off, because we're getting trouble for the rights use. Oh, that's a great song, and it makes me think of my childhood. Does that work, Jeremiah, with legal? That breakdown that makes me think of my childhood. It reminds me of peace and inner childhood. That's actually on the long extended version of this record.
Yeah.
Man, that's fucking good, dude. That's really good.
All I want to say is this, and I don't know if you guys cut this up or if the whole podcast is going to be on there, but if there was one song, it would be, She's Cracked, Roadrunner, and then put on I'm Straight. And if those 3 jams don't grab you, then this record ain't going to be for you.
It's very Pavement and Velvet, like having a baby, basically. It's waiting for the man, but like slowed down. So
I just love his voice, dude. I like how he goes, this is your, I got scared. I put it back. Like, I just love like the way he's talking and singing. And I just remember, I can still remember right now hearing this and just going, dude, this is killer.
That is killer. Yeah.
We're hanging on every word. You're
every
just like,
word.
What's the next word?
Yeah.
All right. This question I'm really excited to ask you because according to bassist Ernie Brooks Richmond's fascination with the Velvet Underground was conflicted. Brooks recalled, I always had this theory that our sound was almost the opposite of the Velvets, that basically we were playing into the light as opposed to the darkness. But you could argue that about anybody. let me take it again. But you could argue that about anybody. Any art that expresses pain is also suggesting a way out of the pain. So it's a two-part question. So first, do you think great art has to come from pain?
Do I think great? I don't. I think great art comes from dedication. I don't want to say it comes from pain. I know that it does. I know there's, so many artists musically, artistically, comedians, and actors, and that art that they pull that all of us love comes from a sadness and a darkness that we don't know about, or we may know about it. I'm not going to say that necessarily it has to come from there, but I will say, and I've said it a million times, if you truly want, in my opinion, to go to that place to find that art, you have to go and dig so deep. You cannot just go, yeah, I'm going to kind of do this. Like, I feel like there can be no backup plan. If you want to, this is just me, and I mean it. So, and I've said it before, if you're a band and you want to make it, you have no backup plan. You can't be like, if the band doesn't work out, then, I just go back to school and then I'm going to be a doctor. Like, no, if you're a comedian and you're like, if comedy doesn't work out, I'll just, I'm just going to be a writer. And no, you want to be the best. If comedy doesn't work out, I don't eat. If comedy doesn't work out, I don't have a place to stay. There's, like Eric Griffin once said to me, his whole life changed where he said, I am not going to do anything except comedy. That's it. I'm not going to, he was doing, I think he was a coach teaching stuff. And he was like, no, now I just do comedy. Now, granted, it opened up acting. It opened up, all of the things that he did, but there was a turning point. And I feel everyone has it where you say, and like I said, it doesn't come from like, I got to be wasted and drunk and sad, or I had to have a terrible childhood. No, but it is that moment, like it's like Sebastian Maniscalco, man. He was just telling me, I did an interview with him and he said he drove from Chicago with his sister and like, okay, here we go. Like, I'm going to make this happen. And I really believe that to me is where you have to go to find that greatness. No backup plan.
I completely agree with that.
No backup plan.
All right, so then this is more on being from the record label and working in the business as well. Was there ever an artist on your label that was going through some shit and then gave you an incredible album from that?
Absolutely.
Do you remember any off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, in so many bands' careers, I would say this. I would say I was so fortunate to work with, and my partner and I, Bill Armstrong and I, we were able to work with bands at turning points in their lives, whether it was, Flogging Molly, you have this Dave King, this amazing guy that was in this band called Fast Way. So he's like, he's had a ride, he's toured with Iron Maiden, he's toured with AC/DC. He comes from Ireland and he's playing, he's say what you will, like he's this amazing, he's this rock singer. And then it all goes to shit. It all ends. And he ends up in LA and he's just like, you know what? Like, I'm going to play the music that I grew up listening to. And he starts to play the Irish songs, right there at Molly Malone's that he had grown up to. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, a drummer wants to join him. Okay, I'm going to do that. And then another, so he starts, the thing I loved with Flogging Molly was like, all of a sudden he had went from being this huge band and it all came back down to the core of who he was, just a kid with his guitar singing the songs that, his mom, he heard growing up in, in the apartment that he lived in Ireland. And then all of a sudden taking just a different twist on those songs, the hybrid. Like, I always feel like the hybrid is the thing that makes it great. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like in my just being fortunate enough to work with bands like Gaslight Anthem, they took a hybrid, you had this great guitar playing in Gaslight Anthem that was almost like painting, like I always say, whenever I listen to Alex guitar playing, it felt like he was just splashes of purple and splashes of red. And then you had this kid, Brian Fallon, with these lyrics. I mean, the guy could sing the alphabet and it would make you cry, but it also, it had, they put this echo on the voice and it just sounded so beautiful. And then you had, the rhythm section, Benny and Alex, that was just, and it was this moment in time where they knew the thing I loved about them. They knew if this didn't happen, they didn't eat. Like that was when you saw them, you saw that moment in time where you're like, you know, you sat in the van with these dudes and it was like, this is all we have. And there's those great moments, you know, and then you can go on to other bands, like, you know, even bands I didn't work with, Guns N' Roses. I mean, it was like that had to happen or it doesn't fly. We don't eat, you know? And I think that came across, you know, on that
in
you
their
know,
music.
maybe
Yeah. In Appetite for Destruction. Yeah.
You know, Axel and Duff and all of those guys and Slash and all of them, you know, they were the real deal. And they had went to that place of like, this has to happen. We have to make this work. And I think that's where the greatness comes from. But for the artists that I've worked with, now I mentioned, you know, obviously Flock and Molly and Gaslight Anthem, but like, I think other bands that, you know, maybe unfortunately didn't have the success of those bands, but I was so fortunate to work with bands, whether it's the Briggs or Go Biddy Go, or, you know, bands like Pup, or, you know, even Naco Bear, like where they went to these places and I just was lucky enough to, you know, be able to help them and be that part of facilitating, you know, making sure, like we used to always say at SideOneDummy, you know, our gig is to not fuck it up. And that, like, as a record company, you can really fuck it up. And I've seen record companies fuck it up. And our biggest fear, my partner and I, Bill and I, was like, when there was that natural momentum and the magic's happening, don't be the guy that I got to hear myself talk until, you know, just fucking let the band do what they're supposed to do. That's the reason why they're fucking there and you're not, you know? And I really feel like that was always kind of Bill and I's place, is like, we knew SideOneDummy doesn't mean shit without these bands.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, don't, you know, hey, those bands leave. Bill, my partner, said the best thing once. Someone said, yeah, you know, Bill said, yeah, you know, without the bands, Joe and I are just two guys that like music. Like, I was like, and I remember when he said that, I was like, God, that's so true. Cause all we did was sit around and talk about how much we love music. And all of a sudden you start working with these bands. You're like, don't get in the way. Just let them do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this is how long we've been going, Jer? Do I have time to do one more fact?
Yeah, hour 50. So yeah.
Jesus. Oh, Jesus. I'm gonna do an hour.
This is with Sib though. This is special.
No, I know. I just always want to keep it like it's always a 2 hour fucking thing.
To do it.
Yeah.
Do you edit it at all? Can you edit?
Yeah, we'll edit. We'll edit about 90% of this, and it's just gonna be you telling that last thing. All right, so because I want to do this one because I think this is funny. Okay. So while in Los Angeles, the band became friends with past 500 album artist Graham Parsons. In fact, Jonathan went mini golfing with Graham, and they discussed recording together on the day before Graham overdosed and died. So I wanted to ask you this because you've worked with so many incredible people. Has there ever been a pinch yourself moment where you're just hanging out with somebody that you're like, how the fuck am I hanging out with this person?
Oh my God, dude. So many. I mean, we could go 3 hours. I mean, dude, okay. Where do I start? You know, the time that I fly over to, we fly over to London, and Gaslight Anthem is opening for Bruce Springsteen. And at that point, Bruce Springsteen has taken a liking to Gaslight Anthem. Gaslight Anthem's record, you know, has come out and it's doing well in the United States. It's doing well over there in Europe at that point. And there's this festival, huge festival, and it's going to be, you know, opener Gaslight Anthem. And I want to say Dave Matthews Band. And then it goes into Springsteen. And at that point, Bruce and Brian had met each other. We're over there. Bill and I both fly over. And I remember I never knew about Springsteen in my entire life unless it was from my partner, Bill Armstrong. In fact, he had to school me once because he's like, oh, dude, you know, do you listen to Bruce? Have you ever listened to Nebraska? I'm like, dude, I'm not a Bruce fan. He's like, okay, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a stupid thing to say. Secondly, I'm going to give you this Nebraska cassette. That's how long ago it was. He goes, I know you're driving up north. Put this in. If you don't like it, I'll never bring it up to you again. But if you do like it, we'll talk later. I go, okay, cool. I remember I was on the 5. I was driving to visit my mom. I put Nebraska on and I fucking pull over after I listen to the record, call him and go, dude, I am a moron. I can't believe I was telling people for years I don't like Springsteen. He started laughing. And then he was the one that turned me on to it. So now fast forward, we have this band, Gaslight Anthem. You know, this record 59 Sound comes out. It's doing amazing in the States, doing amazing over there. Bruce Springsteen starts to like it. They get this opening slot. And I remember Bill, and I'm telling Bill, we got to go. And Bill was kind of on the fence. He's like, dude, I mean, I don't know, like all the way to England. I'm like, and I had to go for like bro moment. I go, dude, I know you and I've had this company now for, 12 years or whatever, 14 years, whatever. But dude, you and I have a chance to go see Bruce Springsteen, the guy. And our band is opening. Like, we're not we're supposed to be there. We're the dudes. We're the guys. Like, no one can be like, hey, dude, bail. Like, we get a hang. And the band, we had a great relationship with Gaslight. And I remember, we both had, Bill had it to his kids. I had mine. And we were kind of in dad mode. Like, because once you have kids, you're like, oh, no, dude, I can't do anything fun. No, I can't do that. No. Oh, Bruce, no, he would. And then finally, Bill goes, you are right. We fly over. And dude, I remember we land the first night. It's like Neil Young playing, and we're like, no way. And that night, we're in our hotel room, and we're just hanging out, and we're just absorbing everything. And back then, or back at this particular time, Reading Leeds Festival was on, and we see Gaslight Anthem. We're like, no way, there they are. They're playing, they're playing for the Reading Leeds Festival. They're playing Reading. All of a sudden, Bruce comes out and does a song with Brian on stage, and we go, holy shit, like, dude, look at what's happening. So we're watching on TV. I literally called Brian afterwards, and I'm like, dude, he's like, did you see that? We're like, oh my God. He's like, see you tomorrow in London. We're like, okay. We hang up. Bill and I are like, just like beyond ourselves. Like, Bruce played with our band. This is amazing. And as a joke, the next morning when we were with the label that we were working with over there for distribution, they were like, oh my God, we're already seeing the sales for the Gaslight record have changed overnight because Bruce came out and sang with them. They go, what do you think will happen tonight in London? And as a joke, just as a joke, I said, how rad would it be if Bruce brought Brian out? And everyone laughed. Like, oh my God, that'd be crazy, because you'd be 60,000 people. So now I'll never forget it. We're there, we're hanging out, we're backstage at this festival, and Gaslight Anthem's got their zone, and we're hanging out, and all of a sudden we see this SUV come over. And Brian comes over and he goes, dude, so Bruce just hit me up. He wants me to come over and run a song with him. And I go, are you fucking serious? And he goes, dude, do you want to go? And I'm like, dude, no fucking way. You got to bring Bill. And he's like, oh my God. Because, Bill's with me. And Bill and Brian brings Bill Armstrong over to fucking Bruce's trailer. And it was so rad, dude. And Bruce is, Bill's like, dude, they're working on No Surrender together. Bill knows, because I knew Bill would be I know Bruce, but like Bill knows everything, right? So they come back and I go, dude, what was it like? And Bill's just like, dude, if we leave right now, fine. Don't even need to see it. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are you stoked we came? He's like, I'm so stoked. So now, dude, Gaslight Anthem plays. Bruce comes out with Gaslight that night in front of at that point there's 30,000 or 25,000 people, 20,000 people, and plays, and the crowd goes nuts because they had seen on television the night before Bruce playing with Gaslight. So everyone thought that was it. Now fast forward, it's Springsteen on stage, full band. It was when I'm spacing on the saxophone player. He was still alive. Clarence Clemens. He was there. It was amazing. And I remember that night in London, they come out and Springsteen opens up with London Calling, by The Clash.
Yeah, dude.
You saw like people are just fucking going nuts. And I'm sitting on the side of the stage, dude. Brian Fallon's next to me, and I'll never forget. I'm like, fuck, dude, who's this fucker on me? And I turn around, and it's Richie Sambora. I'm like, dude, no way. Like, right away, he has the hat on. I'm like, dude, that's so rad. I'm looking at him, and you know what was rad? I remember when we both look at each other, it wasn't like, yeah, dude, I'm Richie Sambora. Who are you? Both of us were like, no way are they playing The Clash right now.
That is so, yeah, you both were fucking teenagers again.
And to make it even crazier, you're sitting there, and Mick Jones from The Clash was watching from the other side of the stage.
That's so boss, dude.
So we're just going nuts. Then, Bruce is going through the show. And at this point, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but, you can look at this up. Like, everyone listening to this right now, you can go on Bruce Springsteen, No Surrender with Brian Fallon. And all of a sudden, it's the middle of the set. They've just been killing it for an hour at this point. And all of a sudden, you see Bruce go, we're going to bring a friend up here. And he's all hitting the guitar. He's making like a feedback sound. He's like, where's Brian? Where's Brian from Gaslight Anthem? And all of a sudden, Brian is sitting, he's right next to me and Bill. And, here it is. It's like, we signed this band in San Diego in front of 15 people. And now the singer is being asked to join, you know, Bruce Springsteen, my partner's fucking band, you know, the whole thing, you know, a band that we both love, a man that's amazing. And all of a sudden, you know, Brian comes out and they start No Surrender. And I'll never forget it. Like Bruce brings the first, you'll watch on the video, Bruce sings the first verse and then he sends it over to Brian. And there was a moment where you're like, you know, there's 50,000 people, you know, there's huge park, Hyde Park, thousands and as far as the eye can see. And there was a moment where I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, how's Brian going to drop into this? And I remember when he drops in and you can see in the video, there is no hesitation. There is no, I don't really belong in this moment. He is so in the moment. And at that moment, he is so home in the moment. He's just like,
yeah,
I fucking am down for this. And I have been in this moment in my mind, in my bedroom since I was a little boy, and it's fucking happening right now. And he's saying so perfectly that after that was done and the crowd goes nuts, and you'll see in the video, but I'll never forget the sound man had said I kind of heard backstage, that was the first time that they, as a guest for Bruce, they had to pull the vocal back, because usually when a singer would guest with Bruce, they get a little nervous. And he said that was one of the few times that I actually had to pull Brian down a little bit because he hit it so hard.
Good
and
for
that,
Brian.
Yeah, and that just
That's
was
being
like,
in the moment, dude.
Yeah. And that was one of those moments that I just remember, like, just sitting there and like going, oh my God, from Santa Cruz, sitting at the Cove with my friends, drawing, you know, the Circle A logo and black flag bars in the sand, to now being on the side of the stage with Richie Sambora. Not that I'm a Bon Jovi fan, but that's pretty rad. And like,
rad.
And like, and seeing Bruce and seeing an artist that we worked with. And also the thing that was so cool is like the band and you know, the guys in Gaslight Anthem, like there was no trying to hide a cool factor. All of us were just nuts. I remember later that night, this is the last thing I'll say. So later that night, we're all drinking beers and we're just like, oh my God, this day's been amazing. And we're in one of those tents, like after show tents. Mm-hmm. And Mick Jones from The Clash is cruising by. He's got the red tie on. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like a Clash fan. These dudes are crazy Clash fans. And I see Mick and I go, oh my God, Mick, you know, nice to meet you. You know, he's like, oh, cool. He's sitting there. Can I buy you a drink? Oh, he's sitting there. Everything's cool. I'm like, dude, can I get the guys in Gaslight Anthem? He's like, oh, I'd love to meet them. So I run over and I bring these 4 dudes over, and I'll never forget. They see Mick and they're like, and he's like, hey, how's it going? They're like, they couldn't talk to
frozen.
The guy.
They were just so frozen because, yeah, legend.
They just froze. And I remember at a certain point, I just looked at Mick. I go, this ain't happening. Like, okay, just left.
Yeah. God bless.
So that's souls. One of those moments.
God bless their souls. So Gaslight great. Anthem. This was great, dude. I got some rapid fire stuff, just some stuff we need to get out to make sure everybody gets your take on it. All right. Favorite song on the record?
Oh, on this, I'm Straight.
I'm Straight. Okay. Well, it wasn't really on the 9 songs that we broke down, but out of the 9 that we broke down.
Out of the 9 we broke down, She's Cracked.
She's Cracked.
Yeah. All okay. Right. Let's do that again. Yeah. She's Cracked. Okay. Out of the 9 we broke down.
Okay. Least favorite song?
Pablo Picasso.
Okay. What song would you fuck to on this album?
Whoa. I'm going to say When You Get Out of the Hospital.
Hospital. That's what I put.
Did you?
Nice. Yeah, dude. And then last question, does this record deserve to be on the 500 greatest albums list?
Absolutely. And why it does, in my opinion, in my little teeny opinion, is because unbeknown to so many bands, and unbeknown to so many people, it influenced so many bands. So many bands were influenced by, I think, the sound, the vocal delivery of Jonathan Richman, and the hybrid of what they did. And like, you know, like we said, Pavement, Beck, I think there's so many bands that got influenced by this.
No, I agree. No, you're good. All right. So Joe, this is fantastic. Promote away. Whatever you want to promote.
Oh, what do I want to promote? I want to promote, you know, I'm doing a car wash because we haven't been doing comedy. So I'm going to be washing car. No, I'll just promote this, man. If you enjoy,
got it. Car wash next Tuesday to raise money.
Are you at Big J's place right now?
I am.
Oh, you are.
I am. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude, you got to tell Big J. was so solid to me when he was hosting the stage, like they did some festival, and it was, remember the big festival, and like Chappelle headlined and Whitney, all the rad. It was, you remember,
Clusterfest?
No, it wasn't that one. It was another one. It was like some summertime show, and Jay ran the side stage.
Oh,
like,
fucking yeah, dude. I know it's fuck.
Anyway,
it was
anyway.
No. I gotta get the name of it. It wasn't Clusterfuck. It was
No.
the touring thing that Live Nation did.
Exactly.
That is called Jay. What was the touring festival that you hosted the side stage? What was the festival with Chappelle and Amy Schumer that you hosted the side stage?
Oh my God, what was that?
The one like Oddball.
Oddball. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, ask Big J. Let me see here really quick. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. Oh my God. Because Big J was so fucking cool. Here we go. Yo, I'm going to text him, see if this is his number. Ask him if he got that. He was so, here we go. I just checked. I just texted him. Go, hey, did you get a text from Joe Sib?
Yes, is texting you. He loves you. You guys did Oddball together. He's just checking to see if you got his text. I didn't give him the number. If he did get, if it's the right number.
There you go. I just
texted
him.
It.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Dude, Jay was so cool. I remember when Jay was so cool to me that day, just because he was hosting all of these fucking comics, and you know, he fucking was just crushing. And I remember I was like, dude, I'm so psyched to do this festival. And he was just fucking cool. And he's like, dude, give me your number, or I'll give you my number. And if you're ever in New York, we'll hang out. And then fucking,
it's like my blood brother, dude.
Only in comedy, right?
Well, you know why?
Well, in music too.
But also, you know why, Joe? Like, it's the same reason that you and I get along so well, and me and Jay get along so well. It's just like we haven't lost touch with how cool this shit is, and what we're doing and what we've been able to do, and it's just, you know, there's an excitement that we have, and a love for, I think, what we have, and a love, we appreciate when other people do it, you know. So
seeing that passion. You know?
Yeah, man. And so he's a homie. He also said never text him again.
Right, okay, so got it.
Never
different number. Okay, got it. Thanks. Okay, so you were okay. Hey, any more? Are we good?
No, do you have nothing to, you want to have anything you want? We'll cut this.
You want me to promote? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Hey, if you, I want to thank everyone. Always love the 500. I love Josh, love Jeremiah, love the whole crew. Hey, if you guys enjoyed anything I said today, do me a favor, hit me up on Instagram, Joe_Sib. At Instagram. And if you want to hit me an email, Joe Sib 22, that's right, 22, Joe SIB 22 at gmail.com. Hopefully when this COVID thing, you know, shuts down, I'm doing some shows. I'm going actually to Florida. I'm going to Chicago. I'm doing the La Jolla Comedy Store. By the time this will air, it'll already be done. But if you're into it, follow me. And there you go. It'll be super cool. There you go.
Joe, I love you.
I love you, brother.
Buddy. You're gonna be on again, so just we'll prep you. I'll give you more than a week prep, less than a week.
This was less than a week.
This was less than a week, but you lived this record, so that you didn't need much time, dude. I love you, buddy.
Love you too, guys. Thank you so much.